everyone. This is another Freedom to Feel conversation, and my guest today is Norman Plotkin. He's an author, editor, speaker, hypnotherapist, and coach. And he also has written three books: Take Charge of Your Cancer, The Seven Proven Steps to Healing and Recovery, Mastermind, Master Life, and Meditation and the Meridians. So, this is my brief introduction, as always, but my favorite question is, who is Norman in his own words?
Norman is a heart-centered servant whose mission in life is to find my treasure and give it away.
Mm,
Uh,
yeah.
I I have had many lives, and uh,
Uh-huh.
and it's been fascinating. And but I found that you can read Eckhart Tolle, Awakening to Your Essential Purpose, 10 times and still not know what your essential purpose is. And so
Yeah.
the universe
Mm,
woke me up with a shamanic healing crisis, and I could have, when my life as I knew it crumbled, I could have jumped into a bottle and drugs and alcohol and cried crocodile tears into my beer. But instead, I went inside and Wayne Dyer's power of intention, and just putting myself into the service of others is what helped
mm,
me come alive.
yeah. How beautiful to hear that. It's not always the case that we human beings go through challenges and we kind of see challenges as opportunity for growth and to learn lessons and to see life differently. Why do you think is that some of us are able to shift and to grow from trauma, from hardships, and some of us are not?
There's a message in trouble. So
Yeah,
when we encounter difficulty, it's a message,
yeah.
and if you don't hear the message, you are likely to spiral deeper. And so my cancer was a message, and it took me a while because at first I just wanted to get back to normal, and
Yeah.
I didn't realize normal was what made me sick. And
Yes. Mhm.
so and teachers began to appear, and um, and I paid attention to the teachers. I had a friend who got out of politics and opened a yoga studio,
Oh,
and she
wow.
took me through therapeutic yoga for cancer and taught me Ayurvedic principles and my dosha and how to eat for my dosha, and taught me how to meditate. And that was
Yeah.
kind of the single largest shift, was to get control of my active mind. I had been in politics for 25 years. My mind, I was an analyst, a consultant. I wrote the analyses that politicians used to vote on bills that were very important.
Right.
But when things change and fate intervenes, and it seems tragic if your mind is all over the place,
Right.
and especially with cancer, the doctors don't go home with you at 10 o'clock at night when the questions and the walls begin to move in on you, when the questions really arise. And those are the moments when you must get control of your active mind. And so
Right.
it was learning to meditate and learning to see um, the message and hear the message.
Mm,
Right. So
mm,
I wanted to call my
yeah.
first book "The
Yeah.
Unwrapped Gift,"
Yeah. It's
uh,
beautiful too.
but my publisher said, "Norm, cancer probably was a gift for you, but how long did it take you to figure that out?" And I'm like, "Yeah,
Uh,
it was a few years." And so she said, "You got to meet people where they are.
yeah.
When they're in the middle of their cancer, they're not thinking it's a gift." And
True.
so I pivoted there, but I still see it as a gift, just as I saw. And this sounds odd, but
Huh.
my brother was killed in 1988 in a car accident, and that was my first wake up call. That was my first unwrapped gift,
Yeah.
because I realized I wasn't immortal and that I really needed to seize the day. And that's when at 25, I went back to college, and I was in a hurry, and I finished in 3 years, and I ended up working in the legislature, and a 25-year career in
Yeah.
that. And it was his gift to me. He was pre-med, and you know, he had to try really hard. I never had to try. And so,
Right.
so in the difficulty, it's a message, and we need to be quiet and still to listen for and understand the message. And those who don't continue to struggle. Those who don't hear the message um, uh, take refuge in victimhood.
Right.
Those who don't hear
Right.
cannot make change, and
Yeah.
change is hard. Change is hard.
That's so true. It sounds very spiritual to me when I hear that. Those who don't hear the message, they continue to suffer. What are your spiritual views at this point, as of today, Norman? How do you see yourself and life itself spiritually?
Well, I was born with a Jewish name, but not raised in the temple. I
Yeah.
accepted Jesus a couple. I was in the Marine Corps, battlefield. I married a Persian girl and converted to Islam,
Wow.
and then I came back to Jesus in the middle of my cancer. But I've read all the books: the Bible, the Torah, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, the Tao Te Ching. I've trekked in the Himalayas and studied at the Monkey Temple in
Wow.
Kathmandu.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, I I follow the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, and so
Mm,
Buddhism holds a very special place for me. And the Tao, the Tao that can be known is not the true Tao. And
mm,
my belief system is that there is a design, an intelligent design. I see spirit in everything, in
mm,
mathematics, in the symmetry of a tree. I believe in I believe that God is not some bearded white guy who lives in the clouds. Her
mm.
name is probably Sophia, and she's consciousness itself.
Huh.
And when you're consciousness and you know everything, it's boring. And so you have to create a universe that has novelty.
Mm,
And so life as we know it is novel. And we get ourselves into things that have novelty. And so I believe that we're all little drops of consciousness and God, and that when we, at 12 or 13, when our little personalities begin to fully develop and we separate and we launch into the true duality of
yeah.
earthbound existence, we forget that we're all one.
Mm,
I'm you, you're me. And
yeah.
if I have bad thoughts about someone, it will reflect back on me. And so
Right.
um, so God is love, and love is God. And
Mm,
I read the Course in Miracles, and I give
yeah.
every one of my clients gets the Reader's Digest version, and it goes like this: Love is your birthright, and it resides in your heart center.
Mm,
Its opposite is fear. In any moment, you can choose love or fear. And love gives rise to all positive emotions, and fear gives rise to all negative emotions. And so
mm,
I have them come up with an image, a picture, or an icon that says love, and practice bringing it into their heart space 40 times a day. And
wow.
that's when life will really shift for people. And so that was my shift.
Mm,
I brought love into my heart space instead of, being feeling like a victim over the cancer. And uh,
right.
my ex-wife didn't manage the cancer. It's never just about the cancer.
Mm,
And my marriage didn't survive that. And so
yeah.
I brought love into my heart space, and my Ayurvedic guru, my yogi, she taught me meditation. And so I would just visualize a red rose in my heart, and I would send it out to everyone, even the people I wasn't happy with.
Mm,
In the face of difficulty, if you can send love to those who you would have every right to be angry with, now that is elevation, that is expansion, and that's the road to understanding the meaning of life.
wow. What is not to love? Using the same word about everything you're saying. Yes, a billion times. So, if there's one purpose to this human experience, one purpose only, what would that be, Norman?
It's to find your gift and to give it away.
Yeah.
And Paulo Coelho in The
Mm,
Alchemist,
yeah.
talks about seeking your personal treasure,
Yeah.
and it's never the pot of gold. Your personal treasure is far more meaningful, and it's really the human connection. And so he spoke of you know, coming home to his family and realizing that his personal treasure was his family. And it's not just my children, it's my human family.
Right. Oh, wow. Yeah, I don't think we can get deeper than that in the practical sense, right? Of expanding what divinity is, what spirituality is, what love is, right? Wow. Now I don't even know what to ask you after all this. It's almost like, what else to talk about? But uh, I really, the audience would love to know that too. I have read, of course, I have some information about you, but talk to me about the main inspiration to do what you do today and to have written these 3 books. What is the purpose behind your work specifically?
So when I realized that the politics and lobbying and that lifestyle was what made me sick, and teachers began to appear, and I read Wayne Dyer and Carolyn Meese and Deepak Chopra and others. I Dyer's book, The Power of Intention, and I saw him speak at a Hay House conference in Pasadena in 2015. I was seeking to put myself into the service of others, because that's the premise of his book, that when you put yourself into the service of others, you really don't have to worry about anything. Everything you need will come to you.
Yeah.
And but I didn't know how. So I was following this wonderful woman, Laura Powers, in Los Angeles. She's a psychic and angel practitioner, and she was teaching me about the archangels, and so I sat down and I wrote a letter to Archangel Michael. Dear Archangel Michael, it's Norm here. You know, I have mad skills. People have paid me millions of dollars, but I don't want to serve politicians and corporations anymore. I want to serve people, but I don't know how. Please give me some direction. Very truly yours, Norman Plotkin. And I took it in the backyard and I lit it on fire, completely gave it to the universe. And then I went into my darkened bedroom and closed the door, and I sat in the middle of my bed and I did japa meditation for 20 minutes. Namanarayana, 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 and my chest was resonating. And then I stopped, and in the cool down period, the most amazing energetic presence came down the hallway through the closed door and stood right next to me. And in the moment I was afraid, and I was made to know not to be afraid.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if I should open my eyes and greet this energetic presence. And as soon as it appeared, it was gone.
Yeah.
And so I called Laura. I'm like, Laura, told her the same story. And she said, wait a second, you wrote a letter to Archangel Michael, you did japa meditation, and you don't know who the most powerful energetic presence that you ever experienced was that showed up.
Yeah.
And so within a week, I was divinely guided to go to this college of hypnotherapy that just happened to be in the Los Angeles area where I was living. I was just guided. And then I went through it, never having been hypnotized before. And I paid for it, and I went through it. And I took a lot of criticism. I mean, I've got 5,000 friends on LinkedIn who know me from the political world, and they're like, oh, what's Norm up to? Hypnotherapy.
Yes, I can imagine.
My girlfriend at the time, she's like, just get a job. I'm like, no, you don't understand. You don't understand. And so 8 years and 12,000 hours of hypnotic therapy sessions.
Yeah.
Here I am living my soul's purpose.
Wow. And this is a good time to ask you the question that it came to me earlier today. Why is hypnotherapy so powerful? What is that about it? Because I sense that and I have a lot of information, but coming from you, I would love to hear the answer to that question.
First and foremost, it's deceptively simple and exceedingly beneficial. And so but they don't understand it. And until recently, when, now that we have imaging devices that can tell us what's going on in the brain when someone's in trance, it was largely anecdotal.
Yeah.
And so it was attributed by the evidence-based community to be largely the persuasiveness of the hypnotist rather than any process that that was being performed. And so we live in a technical world, and people are seeking technical answers and are dismissive. It's real easy to be made fun of on television. Most people's introduction to hypnosis is a Vegas stage show or a television show or the movie Get Out. And, people make fun of things that they don't understand.
Right.
And so uh, the, the reason why it's powerful is because there are two minds. There's the conscious mind that has reason, logic, analysis, willpower, decision making that we think is in control.
Yeah.
And then there's the subconscious mind, which is, we've all seen the graphic of the iceberg. The conscious mind is the tip, and the subconscious mind is the base of the iceberg below the surface. And so the subconscious mind not only controls our physiology, right? So our autonomic nervous system and all of our involuntary systematic processes, it brings us back to 98.6 after a fever. It seeks to bring us to homeostasis. And so not only is the subconscious mind in control of the physiological body, but also behavioral. So just like it wants to bring you physiologically back to homeostasis, it wants to help you learn behaviors so that you can be efficient and get back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So it wants you to be able to food, water, and shelter, and then intimacy, and then all the way down. So
Right.
and so you learn how to ride a bike once. You don't have to keep learning how to ride the bike.
Right.
You learn how to drive a stick shift. You don't have to keep learning how to drive a stick shift.
Right.
You get in the zone. Athletes, performers, musicians, they practice, and then get in the zone. That's the subconscious mind.
Yeah.
But the problem is that same process that creates those efficiencies, when we'll sometimes create maladaptive behaviors as a coping mechanism. And so you can get stuck in a bad behavior because that's the world of the subconscious mind, and it loves the known and fears the unknown. And so
Right.
so when you've developed this behavior as a coping mechanism, the person who hurt you could be dead, but
Right.
subconscious mind holds on to that
Mm.
behavior as a coping mechanism and fears releasing it. And so the hypnotherapy is a way to bypass the critical mind that hovers always, except for when you're asleep, and speak directly to that subconscious mind, which is the dream world. And so I use imagery and metaphor and storytelling to speak to that subconscious mind in the dream state, to help rewrite that programming.
Right. So it is rewriting, reframing. Is hypnotherapy for everyone, Norm?
Everyone who wants to.
Right.
So the research out of Stanford says 80-20. Their research shows that 80% of people can be hypnotized and 20% can't. I haven't met anyone who wanted to be hypnotized that I couldn't hypnotize.
Right.
And so if you cross your arms and say, you can't hypnotize me, then you're right.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
But if you say pretty please with sugar on top, no, just kidding.
Yes.
But if you want me to hypnotize you, I can.
So you did say in the book, Mastermind, Master Life, you write about the two critical components that are essential elements in the power of hypnotic modality. Client consent, exactly that, to be effective. And also the intervention must be intended to be helpful. That's very important too. So that's good to know, because we hear there's so many definitions of hypnotherapy or hypnosis. What is your definition of hypnosis? No.
The definition of hypnosis is focused concentration and deep relaxation.
Yeah. I asked the question. I did ask that question to somebody, a hypnotherapist, long ago, and I said, "What's the worst that could happen?" He said, "You feel relaxed." that's the worst and the best. So there's no side effects really.
There are no side effects. People's largest concern is it's a loss of control. And so in the pre-induction speech, I always tell them that if something made you uncomfortable, you could say stop.
Yeah.
You won't, because it's going to be the most relaxing thing you've ever done.
Yeah.
But it's important that you know that you can.
Right. Wow. This is in another question that I usually hear from so many people is about what is hypnotherapy most effective for? Would you say anxiety, fears? But I know there are so many in the book you mentioned. I don't have all of them here.
And anything a person can get themselves into, hypnotherapy can help them get out of. Anything that a
Yeah,
person finds themselves outside of, hypnotherapy can help you get into. I have a medical emphasis. I've
yeah,
helped a lot of people with fibromyalgia,
yeah,
tinnitus,
yeah,
Tourette's, um, anxiety and depression are big ones. But you know what I find is I get helping people have tools. You know, I had a big strong guy come in, and
yeah.
he had been through some traumas and stuff, and now he's got his pill in his pocket in case he has a
Mhm.
panic attack. And I'm like, well, what if you have a panic attack and the pill doesn't help? And he resisted me on bringing the love in, but when he finally did, I've had several men who resist, but when they finally get to the place where they allow themselves to bring love into their heart space and then learn to breathe, and then it's powerful. You know, the other thing that I help people do, and that is, it's real easy to get uh, hung up in a deluge of negative thoughts. And
Yeah,
so I help people develop a carousel of positive thoughts.
yeah.
So I have them write down their pleasant memories and places they visited. And then if you find yourself in a place, bring love in, take 3 slow, deep breaths to
Yeah.
reset your autonomic nervous system, and then play your highlight reel. Highlight reel, not
Yeah,
the low lights, right?
yeah.
So so I haven't found anything that I couldn't help people with
Mm.
hypnotherapy if they want to be helped. And so
Yes.
that's that therapeutic relationship. It
Yeah.
has. So I can't go to the grocery store clerk and say, "Look into my eyes. You're feeling sleepy. Now give me all the money in the cash register."
Right.
There has to be the consent, and it has to be for good,
Right.
and there has to be rapport.
Yeah.
So 1 in every 1,500 people come in here, and we're just oil and water, and they say, "I sorry, I can't help you," and that doesn't mean I'm not good, and it doesn't mean they're not helpable. It's just there has to be rapport.
Yes. That means trust,
Yes,
basically, right?
absolutely, absolutely.
But in the book, you also mentioned the difference between I think you call hypnotist, a hypnotist, and a hypnotherapist. So I would love to hear that too, because you even mentioned Vegas and all those shows that they have all over the world, actually, not just here. So what is the difference between them?
Well, you can go to a seminar on a weekend and emerge from that weekend as a certified hypnotist.
Yeah,
And you can hypnotize someone.
yeah,
But what do you do with it? Here's the for the
mm,
good. Here's for the good part.
yeah,
Like I do a complete and elaborate history. I go to their childhood and their family structures. Um, you know, because when you're in the middle of something, especially if it's crisis oriented, you're too close. You can't see the forest for the trees. And so the thing that made me a really good analyst and consultant to tell politicians how to vote on bills makes me a good forensic
mm,
investigator.
yeah,
And I often, almost always, connect dots that my clients are too close to see. And
mm,
so counseling and interviewing
yeah,
was one of the most important courses in the body of work that I took to get my certification, which by the way was 18 months and with residency. And I'm not going to take anything away from someone who gets a weekend certificate, and they can put someone in hypnosis.
yeah.
But the therapeutic part is, that's the most important.
Yes, yes, definitely. I know it's used for entertainment. It's almost like everything in life can be used for, let's say, for our own benefit or our own destruction, right? We know that there's always two sides. So, and sometimes I stop to wonder about that. Why some people or half of humanity kind of use what we have, the resources we have, and what we see here in this reality against ourselves. That's such, and it has been, and I know it has been happening for a long time. Have you actually changing the subject for a moment? Have you heard or have you had access of on information about human history where we lived in harmony and everything. We actually we knew how to live. We knew how to connect to divinity and then express that, manifest this in this realm.
Yes. All of us trace our origin back to indigenous life, tribal life. And we lived close to the earth, and we had rituals and a deep, abiding spirituality. So I study shamanism under anthropologists. I don't call myself a shaman, but I use shamanic practices. I have a drum, and I
Yeah.
help people journey. I do shamanic soul retrievals. And during one day outside meditating, a hummingbird came right here and
Yeah.
called me, you know.
Yeah.
So we all have that spirit, but it was when we were singular instead of
Yeah.
dual, and we were connected. We were all connected, and we had love in our heart space. Um, See, it's that love thing. It's that connection. It's the closeness of humanity and living close to the earth. And we've separated ourselves. We've distanced ourselves, and
Mm.
we're losing the efficacy of our own senses. We've dumbed everything down and have machines beep at us when our car has all these bells and whistles instead. So you just get in it. Now they want to launch a car that drives for you. I'm like,
I
what?
know. Yeah.
What? I mean, you
I know.
know,
Yeah.
you
That's,
so
um,
we really lost our way.
yeah. It feels like that. It really does. Although I know at the deeper level, everything is okay. Everything is fine. There's nothing really happening. The truth is, I mean, I can feel that. But I wonder at this level of the human experience and the perceived idea that, the separation and the suffering, would you say that this is also divine play, or has something to do with free will?
D, all of the above. So,
Yeah.
so th- you know, people conflate astronomy with a horoscope.
Yeah.
The heavenly bodies and their movement through the universe affect us. The moon affects us.
Yeah.
On a full moon, emergency rooms are fuller. We've lost our understanding of how we're affected by the world and the universe around us. All right. So there are 26,000 year cycles, and within them a roughly 12,000 year cycle. And so we're moving from the epic of Pisces to the epic of Aquarius, and there's a huge movement. We see it. We're in the middle of this transition, and transitions are messy and difficult, and it's
Yeah.
not unicorns and rainbows. It's plate tectonics, and we look around you. The difficulty that the old way is falling,
Yeah.
crumbling.
True.
Patriarchy, duality, conflict. Look at the conflicts of the last 2,500 years, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we're moving into energy, away from Newtonian mechanics and
Mm.
into energy in the quantum field. It's a feminine energy we're moving into. Emotional intelligence will be important for all of us. That's my next book. Anyway,
Yeah.
so it's really important because even for women,
Yeah.
look at women politicians. They try and outman the men.
Yeah.
They don't speak to their subtle archetypal gifts of creativity and collaboration and cooperation. We all need to move in that direction. So to
Yeah.
directly to your point, and that is we're in this transitional period. There is divine intervention to the extent that there's divine design, and
Yeah.
that created the 26,000 year cycle and the 12,000 year cycle and the epics of time and the archetypal imprints that affect us during each passage. We're going from the institutional into the individual and transcendence, and from three-dimensional world, which is fear-based, through fourth of
Yeah.
time and into the fifth, which is love and compassion. And
Mm.
in order to ascend to the fifth dimension, you must have love and compassion. The fear of the three dimension, there's two
Mm.
timelines, and there's those who will be trapped in the fear of the three-dimensional world. And then it's up to the rest of us to unify and lift our brothers and sisters. When enough of us do, and enough of us express our love and compassion unwaveringly, we'll lift the rest of humanity.
Oh my God, what a beautiful vision. I love your wisdom, Norm, the timeless wisdom, as I call it. I can not just hear it, but I can feel it too. Some things you say, I have goosebumps. The body is answering for it in an interesting way. Um, what is freedom to you when it comes to this reality as it is, or feelings and emotions too, which is they're big, huge parts our daily lives, but in general as well. How do you define freedom?
Freedom is when you allow yourself to feel everything. And then what you do with it is important. That's the responsibility part, because we get stuck in our feelings. If I ask you, why do you do this, do that?
Mm,
You say, well, 10 years ago that happened, but you don't remember what
yeah,
happened. The details you would recount incorrectly. What you remember is how it made you feel.
right,
And
right,
so now you had an
true.
experience that created a feeling, which created an emotion and an imprint in your body.
Yeah,
And you can get stuck there. That's this,
yeah,
the somatic response. The body keeps the score. Another good book,
yeah.
where we take our experiences and we somatize them into our body. I do a lot of that work. I help people release, and so I teach them, don't repress or suppress your feelings. Allow yourself to feel it, and then
Yeah,
choose to decide how you're going to feel instead. That made me mad.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
I don't like being mad. I want to be happy. And so I'm going to
yeah.
bring love into my heart space, and I'm going to send a red rose to that person who pissed me off.
Mm,
I'm just going to know that they're human and they're me and I'm them. And I'm
mm,
just going to send them a red rose and
yeah,
some love.
yeah.
So have the freedom to feel and release it. Otherwise, it gets trapped in your body and will come up as a maladaptive coping mechanism. And then you'll be in to see me.
Then you have more clients, right? So if you don't want Norm to have more clients, just take his advice from here.
That's it.
um, let's see. Another question I have for you. It's actually about that trauma. You mentioned in the book Mastermind, Master Life. I can pronounce that correctly. You say it's about PTSD. You said, I am certified in hypnotherapy for PTSD, but sadly, it is not widely known how effective hypnotherapy is with respect to trauma, so few people take advantage of it. Talk to me about that and why this is.
Yeah, uh, trauma it gets imprinted. It's just like the emotions that I referred to a moment ago. Trauma
Yeah,
gets imprinted, and trauma. Those who suffer trauma then become hypervigilant, always looking over their shoulder, waiting for the other shoe to drop. They get in circles. Oftentimes, they get obsessive and compulsive in their
yeah,
hypervigilance,
yeah.
and they get in this loop. And so the power of hypnotherapy is that the law of opposites says you can't be relaxed and anxious at the same time. So I have techniques like circle therapy where I'll take them deep into hypnosis and have them um, bring up the event and realize that they can't hurt them any longer. It's gone. And then
Mm,
let it go, and then bring it up, and then let it go, and then bring it up and let it go until they really get to the place. Sometimes I'll put it in their arm and make it really, really stiff, and then let it go. And
right.
you can just feel, you can just see them, the
Yeah,
relief in their body. I've had
yeah.
people from the Vegas shooting event. I've had, people in
Wow.
very terrible car accidents. I
Yeah.
is, it's because it's a safe place. It's that you go within, and you release that, because the subconscious mind is like, no, no, I'm not going to let that go. What do you mean? What do you mean we're going to let go of that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And our bodies develop, there's the inner protector, that there's this traumatic thing over here that they don't want to look at. So it creates this thing over here, like a malady or a disease or stuttering or migraines, and like, oh, I got this terrible migraine, but it's keeping you from looking at that thing that's, traumatized you. So
Right. Yeah. So that's what I heard about hypnotherapy. It's incredibly effective. I have been here for so many people for trauma. Is you also see trauma as a incomplete experience perceived by the person, and then we keep trying to resolve that because we experience as that event as incomplete. Is that does it resonate with you?
Yeah, it's you get locked in that cycle, that trauma cycle. Just like I'll give you a
Yeah,
corollary. I
yeah,
I see um, I see a lot of clients who have bad relationships, and if they're men, they're trying to fix their emotionally unavailable mom, or women, they're trying to fix their unemotionally available dad, and so they seek out someone who's not good for them. And I'm gonna fix. This is all unconscious.
yeah. So true.
Fix him. I'm going to fix him this time. I'm going to get daddy's love. Mom is going to finally
Yeah,
love me. It's both men and women, but it's more
yeah.
prevalent in women. But and
Mm,
so you relive. So there's three stages of dreaming. In the first stage of dreaming, when you first fall asleep, you relive the events of the day with wishful thinking, the way you wish they had gone.
ah,
And then the subconscious mind tries to predict the future. And then in the last bit of the night, uh, right before you wake up, and these are the ones you remember, you're venting. You
uh-huh.
vent events, but it's that wishful thinking that we get stuck in the loop of wishful thinking away the traumatic experience we wish had gone,
Yeah.
and you get in this loop of replaying it.
Yeah, it is sad to hear that. Even has been my case for many years, and also in relationships. Right, something in me was trying to resolve, that past, the relationship with my father I didn't have, and I remember very much reliving all that, trying so hard and suffering and making him suffer too. But I didn't do hypnotherapy, which I wish I had. That would have been so much faster. Would have saved me. Wow. Yeah, it would have saved me in so many ways, emotionally for sure.
It's never too late, Valeria.
Yeah, now it seems like I'm very good. I'm doing much better. I don't think that's another question. Do we really become free, completely free from those imprints from childhood, Norm? Because I do feel that they are still here, but somehow not driving my life. That's what my experience says.
Yeah, we can't change what happened, but we can help you change how you feel about it.
Yes, right. So the feelings are very clear now. I can see everything clearly. In my path was always spirituality. I never really took the therapeutic path, although I engage in a lot of therapeutic, let's say, experiences. I do have a lot of rituals that I do in my house and meditation and all that, but it's very focused on spirituality. What is what who am I? What am I? That has been my deepest question. And then once I tap into, have a glimpse of what that is, then everything seems to be absolutely fine. The past, the now, the future, it doesn't really matter. It's just it's peace. It really feels like I'm bathed in peace. Oh, that's so.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's really what it is.
It is beautiful. But let me just draw your attention to something.
Yeah.
That was your that was your own hypnotic journey.
Ah,
So
right.
so
Right.
so three things are necessary for hypnosis:
Ah,
authority, a doctrine or a paradigm, and you have to feel something. So
mm,
you appeal to the highest
yeah,
authority there is, the spiritual, and the
yeah,
doctrine or paradigm was that all things are available through spirit.
right.
And did you feel something? Yes, you found peace finally. So let's look at some things that people don't usually think about. All right. So there's the white collar or the cap or the
Mhm,
robe, right? And the good
yeah,
book, any one of the books. And do you
yeah,
feel something when you're at temple, mosque, or church? You know, people sing, and that's
yeah.
hypnosis. That's hypnosis.
Mm,
Here's one
yeah,
that people don't think about:
yeah.
lab coat and stethoscope,
Mm,
medical books,
right,
medical school. And do you
right,
feel something when you go to the doctor? You know, it's not a good place to have your blood pressure taken.
right.
You could get good news, you could get bad news,
Yeah,
be angry because you were on time for your appointment, but were made to wait for 45 minutes. Just, you know, and
yeah,
then they give you 5 minutes and a pill and dismiss you, and without hearing what's wrong. And,
yeah.
you know, so medicine is hypnotic. So I would,
Mm,
I would just encourage you to see
mm,
your journey
mm.
as a beautiful hypnotic experience.
Yes, and I can see that. Absolutely, because it really feels like a dream within a dream. Really, I can sense that. I wake up sometimes. This reality doesn't seem as stable as it was yesterday. It's a lot more. It's lighter. It's almost like you can navigate whatever is happening here in a concrete way, of course, because it feels that way. But there's something very dreamy about it, very light, which I call peace, because now it can't affect me because I know it's not what I perceive it to be. So let me see. I'm almost at the end of our interview today, Norm, and I have a question here about. It's the chapter 4 in your book, and I have to mention the book again if I can find it in my first page. Yes, Mastermind, Master Life, chapter 4. What does science say? So this is something that hypnotherapy is. It's proven by science, isn't it?
Well, it is, and they're imaging the brain now, and so the frontal cortex, the executive function, the part of your brain that that causes you to pay attention relaxes. And so that's why people get up on stage and do things that are silly, because they've relaxed that part of their brain. It's the and uh,
Uh-huh.
anterior cingulate. I haven't dished that out in a while, but
Yeah.
they have functional MRIs now, and they can see what parts of the brain light up. And so I alluded to it earlier. Evidence-based medicine used to think that it was anecdotal, but now we have proof, and
Right.
we know what's going on in the brain, and we know why it works. And so it's just, if you go to Google Scholar, there are tons of studies on the efficacy of hypnotherapy for a range of things. Um, uh, I do pre-surgery and post-surgery, and there's large body of evidence that if you have hypnotherapy prior to surgery, your outcome is going to be better, less pain, shorter recovery time, and less pain medication with less pain.
Mm, yeah.
And so,
Right.
but there's no drug company paying for the dissemination of these studies. Okay, so
Right. Right.
unless you unless you
Yeah.
do
Good point.
your own homework and research,
Yeah.
so science does have a definitive statement. It's unequivocal today. We
Yeah.
know what's going on. Dr. David Spiegel at Stanford is doing some fantastic work there. The Human Givens Project in the United Kingdom, it's just it's indisputable now. It's gone are the days when Franz Mesmer mesmerized people, and the king of the court of King Louis the 14th dismissed it as bizarre. Gone are those days.
Yeah.
We now medicine can define what's going on. If
Mhm.
in the book I cite the definitions from the American Psychological
Yeah.
Society and,
Yeah.
and, and others. And
Yeah, so it is. And I have, of course, read a lot about it. And also meditation, right? We see the science back in meditation these days. Hypnotherapy and meditation, in other, of course, alternative medicine, which I'm very fond of for some reason. I do believe in conventional medicine. And of course, if I had an accident, an emergency, that's what I would go for. But other than that, I don't think that would be my first go-to.
well,
Oh,
you know why? Because
yeah.
they're symptoms managers.
Yes.
Okay. You're right. In the emergency room, if your arm is broken in a car accident,
Yeah.
they're
Yes.
great for
Yes.
emergency medicine.
Yeah.
But in daily practice, they just manage. They don't tend to cure. And by the way, I was a lobbyist for the Medical Association. I
Oh,
represented
yeah.
30,000 doctors in California as a
Oh my
lobbyist.
God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so I know about the practice of medicine, not
Right.
not firsthand, but because
Mm.
it was my job to know, because I represented them, and before that I was the committee consultant to the health committee in the state legislature. So the
Wow.
the problem is, it's they've disconnected from humanity,
Mm.
and they don't, you're not treated like a human. You're a
Yes.
cattle call, and they don't take the time, and they don't get to understand the amount of time I put in to get to understand the person
Mm.
is
Yeah.
directly proportionate to the efficacy of my sessions.
Right. That's it. So it might be, I mean, just something came to me. It might be the application of what we know, right? That's what conventional medicine is. So they're not really tapping into what they don't know. There's no, right?
Well,
It,
that's a great way to put it. It's also emblematic of where we are in the epoch of time right now. We're moving away from Newtonian mechanics and reductionist
mm,
materialism. You know, the a doctor looks at cell tissue organ system instead of who are you and what's your
right.
story? Who are you and what's your story? You
Yes.
know, let's get
Yes.
to know who you are so I can understand
Right.
how to come at you and how to serve you, how to serve you. Remember, I
Mm,
began with the fact that I'm a servant,
yes. Yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, there's no that sense of seeing a human being as a complete being. It's not there, right? It's not. It's not a whole being that we are looking at. It only parts of it.
I know. I mean, it's kind of gross. It's kind of gross when you think about it, right? They send you with a little bottle and wanted to fill it up with your bodily fluids, and then they pour, you know, they pour over your bodily fluids. They've reduced you to
Yes.
the elements within your, you know.
Right. Right. And it feels like that, right, Norma? I don't know the last time. I don't remember the last time I went to a hospital, but I think it was probably 5 years ago with my husband's um, father. That he died. He was there for a while. It wasn't a feeling that I got from there. It didn't affect me, but I see that affected all of them. My husband's family. They all felt very small in hospitals, and they reenacted that the lack of control, and I could see in their eyes.
Yeah.
That was not empowering at all. So I don't know. So you do have that vision that we are moving from one state to another, and we might, as humanity, and we might come to live the manifestation of the divine per se, which I call non-duality. It's that consciousness, pure consciousness, just bringing that to this reality. I love hearing that from you because I hear from a lot of spiritual teachers, but now I'm here from hypnotherapist slash scientist politician. I know you're not a politician anymore, analytics, but yeah,
I
that's great to hear.
it's been quite a journey. You know, at one
Yeah.
time I was a Republican staffer, and now
Oh,
you know what I mean. And
yeah.
now I have
Yes.
crystals and a buffalo
Yeah.
hide drum. You know, and I
I
do
know.
shamanic soul retrievals. And you know, I have friends from politics who invite me to play golf just because they want to hear what crazy stuff I'm up to now. You know,
Yeah.
um, but we are on our way to singularity, and that's where. So you know,
Mm,
another guidepost I just want to share is the 7 hermetic principles.
yeah.
You know, it's energy and vibration and frequency, and you know, this is we are energy,
Mm, yeah.
and you know,
Wonderful.
my heart. Dr. Joe Dispenza does an entrainment to the brain to the heart. I
Mm,
went one further: brain, heart, gut. You know, and
yeah. Yeah.
just entrain your organs because we all have. So I've experienced all of the clairs. I've seen, heard, tasted, smelled. Um, and we all have these capabilities, but we've dumbed them down, and we're going in the wrong direction by these electric devices in our hands and stuff.
Yeah.
But but we're on our way back to the time when we can use the full capacity of our faculties. Our brains are underutilized. We have the capacity to know what you're thinking and how you're feeling just by looking at you and
Mhm.
by standing near you. I mean, I have that, and at first, in early part of my life, I didn't know what to do with it. It created conflicts for me, and I like, what does it mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't until my shamanic healing crisis that I found. And so I would just encourage everybody, if there's difficulty in your life, seek the message. See, you know, what does this mean? What can I learn from this? How can I do better? What am I supposed to understand from this situation?
Mm. Yes, and that's key. You see, going deeper. And the question I asked about your vision, you actually it's not something that you speak of. It's something that you are now. It's clearly that you are the message now that of that change that we are seeing that. That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Norman, for being open to life itself. Thank you. And before we say goodbye for today, I do have a technical question here. But before that, what is one message you wish everyone to take with them from this interview? If there's one, what would that be?
Well, it has to be to keep love in your heart space, and that's throughout the day 40 times, and ask yourself, am I coming from a place of love or fear?
Mm,
And if you can redirect yourself, if you can occupy that space between action and reaction,
mm.
and bring love into your heart space and show up as a loving human being, it will change your life.
Yes, absolutely. And hypnotherapy, I must say. I know you didn't say that, but I have to say it. It's rewiring the brain. So I know you mentioned using the brain, our whole capacity, but it has to be reframed. We need to rewire that brain first.
Such an
Those.
important point. I reframe and redirect everything. That's what I do. And for the
Yeah.
most part, before I put them in the chair, I've reframed and redirected so that they get out of this thought pattern that they're stuck in.
Yes, that's it. And before I ask you this final question about where to find you, I wanted to thank you again for your presence in this reality and what are you doing. I can feel it's coming from that universal truth that everything is connected, and we are here not as a person, but as I would say the manifestation of that energy, that of connectivity and interconnectedness. So thank you so much, Norm. And where is the best place to find more information about you and your work?
My website is my name, normanplotkin.com.
Wonderful. I'll
And
have that on the link. Yes,
yeah, and
yes.
I mean, I'm on Facebook, IG. I've got some YouTube videos up. I've got some meditations that if you find me, there's some free stuff up that you can check out. Some of my speaking stuff, some of my podcast appearances and whatnot. But you know, I had a business coach tell me that I should start a podcast, and I said, I don't want to learn how to be a podcaster in order to be a hypnotherapist. So I appreciate you and giving a platform for those of us who have a message, but don't necessarily, go the route of doing a podcast.
Right.
So thank you so much for giving my voice to others.
Thank you for having that voice that we want to hear and be reminded of. Thank you. So you have a wonderful day and we'll talk soon. Bye for now, Norm.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.